Hello, and welcome to our review of the Gospel of Josephine, which was the fifth episode of the sixth season of the 100. I thought this was a really fun episode. I thought it started off really strong, and I enjoyed the stuff with the Yosa and Octavia and how they were interacting with Xavier, as well as all the stuff with Josephine. I thought that the Josephine stuff was pretty creepy. I think you really liked the Bellamy. Um,
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, I just think he's that was shows that he's like a pretty good actor, you know? Um I felt like he was actually really surprised. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, the way she like dropped it on him, how she'd
Yeah,
been learning the Creole over the episode, just like slowly, like
yeah.
picking up enough to make it so creepy when she dropped it on Bellamy like that. Like she's such a good villain. I'm really liking Clark as Josephine. She's playing the character really well. I think that this is a great story arc for them to give the actress, and I'm really excited to see if they're actually going to end up bringing back Clark or if this is going to be the way they kind of like send her off, with this villain arc, which is I think would be actually a really cool way for them to pay tribute to her. 'Cause she's been a kind of like a villain in a lot of ways, but she's a good person, and I'd like to see her come back too. But I don't know. I feel like it's very unpredictable at this point.
Yeah, I can't think of I mean, I guess they come up with a lot of creative ways to make things happen that you won't expect, but I can't think of like any like I don't know, official way that they could do that, right? That they could bring her back.
Hmm.
I feel like she's gone, but I don't know.
Yeah, at one point there was like a line that made me think there might be a city of light because they seemed to say something about Delilah wanting to tell Jordan that she was happy. And I was like, does that mean she's not really like dead? She's like off somewhere else? Like, are they going to pay tribute to the city of light by saying that these people who sacrifice themselves now like don't really die in a traditional sense? They get to like live in kind of like a paradise type thing or
I don't
with
know.
the
That line didn't
primes.
I didn't really get that from that line. I just got more like they were trying to like calm him down in like a really unsuccessful way
Mm-hmm.
that totally backfired. But I don't know. I guess it's possible.
Josephine though, later in the episode, was just like Clark's dead, gone, not coming back.
Right.
That's how it
Yeah.
is. But I don't know. Maybe that's just her way of phrasing where her mind is being stored is like frozen or dead. She's dead. She's not coming back. Not if Josephine has anything to do with it. But I'm still holding out hope that she may return. And what I really enjoyed with the whole Murphy Clark interaction is I kind of saw that as a potential like direction for taking Murphy. I think I said I think Murphy and Raven might be a thing, and you're like, no, Murphy and Amori for life. And a part of me may have thought like Clark and Murphy at one point, but I can't remember if I ever said it like on camera. Like I just have all these theories about who's gonna hook up with who, and I'm like finding that whole dynamic of Josephine and Murphy really interesting because I think Josephine makes sense with Murphy. Like he's a survivor. He would want to live forever. Like that's part of the survivor instinct is like you're willing to preserve yourself at all cost, right?
Hmm.
But he's also done so much with this group and he's redeemed himself, I think, in a lot of their eyes. Like I think Bellamy really trusts him and that means a lot to Murphy. And that might be something that Josephine just doesn't understand. She killed her best friend, like Kaylee at the beginning of this episode, I think she said was her best friend. So that doesn't mean anything to her. She doesn't really have what Murphy has. Murphy actually has something there. I think we're going to learn more about her interactions with Gabriel soon. Kaylee, or not Kaylee, Josephine, how she had a relationship with the doctor before she died by her father's hands in the first Red Sun, and that doctor helped bring her back. That doctor is going to probably be, I think, a red blood. I don't think he's a night blood for whatever reason. And I think the children of Gabriel are the red bloods, right? And she wanted to
Hmm.
cull them. at one point it seems like she wanted to kill off everybody that wasn't a red blood so that there were only black bloods. But as a result of Russell, the father's kind of mercy and like lack of genocide, their people have been persecuted almost to death. The Nightbloods are almost extinct,
Hmm.
and that seems to be by design. Like some people, Gabriel may have decided what he did to Brooke, what he had done to all the other embryos, was a horrific crime that he needs to like make amends for. Kind of like Dioza wants Octavia to make amends.
Um, I was gonna say I'm still thinking about how you said the like sons of Gabriel are red bloods, not night bloods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's right because the people who have red blood and live in that compound have it good because they're never gonna get killed to be replaced with one of these primes, right? They're not gonna get killed at all. That's just not their philosophy. So
But
they basically live this like idyllic life. Why would a red blood leave that like willingly? So I think the people out there are nightbloods who don't want to give up their bodies and lives, right? Doesn't that make more sense?
that's a good point, actually. The children of Gabriel, the ones who ran away, could actually all be Nightblood. So maybe the children of Gabriel were like
And maybe
Jocelyn
they're
and
not trying
his
to like,
children.
they're not trying to necessarily like kidnap and like kill these other nightbloods that live there. They're like trying to rescue them and have them like not die for the primes.
Mm-hmm. I still think that there may be some kind of embryo program in place. Like I don't know how they make their Nightbloods and how they like interact with the other people, the Red Bloods.
Hmm.
Like, because it would make sense that the parents of Delilah would also be Nightbloods, but if they were, wouldn't they also be hosts at this point when they take them? Their brains may be a little bit too old. I'm not sure if that's a problem if they're too old, but they want people to be 21, which means Maddie's not going to be able to become a host for a long time.
Hmm.
But they may be interested to know more about how she has the mind of others in her head and she's able to process that at a young age.
Yeah.
And how they made Nightblood before, like Abby has made people into Nightbloods, made the Red Bloods into Nightbloods, which is probably a process they've never been able to achieve on Alpha because they didn't want that, they didn't need that, or maybe they pursued it a different way. Josephine was like, "We do it this way," and Russell's like, "We don't do it at all."
Or maybe they, it seemed like, I don't think they've even thought of doing that. Like, that seems a little bit beyond their scope, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
They didn't need to. They
I
weren't
didn't really
pushed to
get
that
the,
point.
yeah, I didn't get that impression that they felt like they wanted to start looking into that.
Yeah, that's fair. I liked at the beginning of the episode when Jordan brought the daisy to Priya, and
Mhm.
like how that wasn't Delilah's favorite flower, but he got Priya to say that it was her favorite flower. Kind of like she was playing off that she's Delilah for a second, which is a very strange interaction because like usually they wouldn't pretend like that, but maybe because Priya's so like just thrown into this, like she's still like kind of figuring out the whole dynamic, right? How they're gonna like explain this to these new group of people.
Yeah.
Because she's probably pretty smart. She probably knows how it looks. Probably looks pretty bad, right? It's probably why she's being careful about that. But like the significance we were just talking about is so weird. Like literally yesterday, I think was it yesterday or the day before when we were talking about calla lilies.
Oh, it was yesterday.
Yeah, we were talking about how like they signify death, right?
But I think so.
Yeah, and like that just seems kind of like funny because like a daisy is a very different type of flower. It's kind of like happy and like everything's fine type, you know, right? I think you said you looked up something on that.
Yeah. I want to go make sure that I am uh, correct about the lily signification, but um,
And it makes
you
sense to me, like the fact that they would. use those flowers like that because it's just like I think you said the daisies had something to do with birth, and that kind of seems like Priya's rebirth. It has to do with Priya being reborn, and that's like the positive side of it. And then like the negative side of it was Delilah had to die. So I think there's like some meaning in that whole like interaction with the flowers, right?
Yeah. So yes, I was right about the calla lilies meaning death. I just wanted to make sure before we keep going with this. But it is interesting because it also shows about how like Delilah already had that further she was she didn't really want to go through with it, I think. Like remember she like kind of ran back to Jordan and there was that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, don't forget me, essentially. I mean, it's interesting that that is her favorite flower that symbolizes death. Like her whole life was leading up to her dying, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Like,
obviously everyone's life is like that, but specifically hers, like she knew exactly when she was going to die and like made a big deal out of it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, like that was still a focus for her life, and like that's where her mind went or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that's really cool that they put that in there. I thought Gaia's role in this episode was really cool because played a kind of like a very insignificant role in the past. She's done some pretty important stuff, but she was more of like part of the crew exploring the lab underground, and I thought that was a really great use of that actress, and I'd like to see more of that type of stuff with that character.
Yeah, I like her a lot too. I hope I mean I liked when she was kind of standing up to the Josephine Clark person, like
Yeah, like she almost knew
pretty awesome.
immediately. She seemed
Yeah.
to like she's like something's not right here, but she didn't call her out on it. Like it's really interesting that nobody actually called her out on it because it seemed kind of obvious to us as the viewer, but I think
Yeah.
it would make sense that they'd let a couple
Yeah,
things
I
go.
think you'd brush off that kind of weird small stuff, at least for a little bit, right? And
Yeah,
it didn't take them that long to figure it out.
yeah. I wonder if there's gonna be anybody like Dioza who just like knows, like that's not Clark. Like they're
Maybe.
clever because Dioza's really like she has a lot of wisdom. I thought it was really cool how she was talking about suicide with Octavia and like she's gonna I think help her find a new like um will to live.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was interesting. Like, their whole, like, pairing this episode. I thought they did a lot of interesting things. Um, and I was so intrigued by, like, the quicksand, like, glowing swampy stuff.
That turned into
That, like,
glass.
yeah, so weird.
It was cool. Like that was like it was just like a really fun cinema scene. Like they haven't done quicksand before. Like quicksand is like
Hmm.
a typical like thing they used to do in movies and TV, but I feel like has gone out of fashion, and it's just really great to see them use it in such a unique way with the
Yeah.
especially with the glass bit kind of covering her at the top. That was
Hmm.
pretty special and unique. Very 100. So I think we talked a little bit about how Gabriel is the children of Gabriel are probably descendants of the biologist Gabriel Santiago who helped Russell bring back um, Josephine. But like, yeah,
Oh, his descendants or his followers. I mean, I'm not convinced that he had a whole bunch of kids.
a bunch of Nightblood kids, or if like the children are the
I mean,
embryos, maybe. Like,
yeah,
it would make sense if they were the embryos, because I think he'd feel bad about what he did to Brooke.
I mean, I didn't think he felt that bad. He moved on right away after, like, didn't even, like, hang out with her, for, like, more than a minute before he went back to start recording his little case study again. And, I don't know, he had tried it on a bunch of people before her, a bunch of kids. Like, it doesn't, to me, seem like he was very.
I feel like if he was on board with what they were doing, he'd still be a part of their society. As the person who formulated the way to make primes, I feel like he would be a prime. He'd be immortal. And I think he was. I think he might still be a bit of a
Well,
prime
maybe.
leading the people out in the farce, and the children of Gabriel may just be the followers. Who knows? I think that's more likely than they're all his kids, unless everybody who's an embryo sees themselves as related to him because he helped make them a thing. I did like that he was the that he got away because it wasn't really clear in the shootout if he got away, and I think I may have said in one of our videos that I think that I wasn't sure if he got everyone, if that the guy running actually got out of there, because everybody else obviously got gunned down. But I like to see that they were paying attention to that kind of detail and trying to hide it from the viewer a little bit.
Hmm.
Oh, and I wanted to mention really quickly that it seemed like Diosa could have chased after Xavier to get her ticket into the City of Light, but I think she knows something's up. I think she actually wants to know more about the people who um, haven't killed any of their own and
Hmm.
seem to be, you know, relatively peaceful compared to the primes who just want to kill. Like they're pretty authoritarian, and Diosa may be actually able to see through their dynamics a little bit quicker than the other people. She's been in a lot of messed up societies before. It sounds like before anything that happened in the show, she was a war criminal, but she was also like set up by the government to do all the stuff that she did.
Hmm.
At least that's what they made it out to be. Maybe some of the stuff was actually up to her, and she's kind of like Octavia. She's got a mixed history. At the end of the episode, I thought it was interesting that Abby called Jackson a war criminal. It's kind of sad. I feel like he didn't deserve that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's always kind of harsh like that. I feel like
Like when she said that, I felt like she was calling herself a war criminal rather than him. But it's just like,
he was. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It didn't surprise me that much.
yeah, he's always been there for her though. It's just like, and then he's trying to help and she's not listening and it's sad. I feel really bad for him. Poor Jackson.
Mm.
But yeah, the end of the episode was pretty fun with Murphy and Josie coming clean and being like, "You want to live forever? You want to be immortal?" Because that, like I said earlier, it just seemed to make sense to me, and I thought it was just kind of like a fun way to kind of like wrap up the episode that introduced Josephine for her to go the way that she wanted to go. Because at the beginning, she didn't want to deceive them. She's like, "We're spectacular. There's no need for us to hide what we are. Let's just tell them what we are and let them
Hmm.
worship us." Maybe kill the ones that we don't deem worthy.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if they'll have Murphy going through some like moral dilemmas as he's it because it seems like they're setting him up to accept and try and work with her, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what kind of like thinking he has to do before he goes through with it. Also, it's going to be a long time before he can be immortal, huh? So I guess he doesn't know that at that point, right?
Well, maybe Josephine's thinking if Abby can make people into Nightbloods,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
she can make Murphy into a Nightblood and then he can be immortal. Maybe she's actually not thinking like as a villain here. Maybe she actually wants to turn everybody into Nightbloods. If she thinks she can, maybe she will.
I mean, that does seem like what her original goal was, right?
Yeah.
All my bloods.
But there's no need for her eugenics if she can actually just simply be like, "You're a Nightblood now." So she might just be like, "This is what we need to do," and
Yeah.
turn into less of a villain than we thought she would be, and she might actually be an ally, which would be crazy.
So much could happen in the next however many episodes.
Yeah, something tells me no. Something tells me that that's the villain that they're gonna try and kill at the end of this season at least.
Yeah.
Some
possible. She keeps growing into the boss.
boss level.
Mhm.
She'll be in her Josie clothes at least at that point.
I know. I'm curious, like what what's how different that's gonna be. I guess it'll be like let's black.
Well, she was wearing like science clothes, like in the flashback. I think like they're all kind of in their assigned
Yeah.
uniforms, but she probably just likes artsy stuff, and who knows, like the fancy
Well,
stuff. That
we'll get to meet that character over time, I guess.
yeah, kind of like how Clark didn't like wearing the fancy stuff. She kind of liked her murder gear, or whatever Murphy called it.
Hmm.
I think that Josie's gonna like the other types of clothes. But yeah, we'll see that kind of soon. That's pretty much everything I had in my notes. You know, Josie's right-handed, Clark's lefty. I'm sure other people are gonna pick up on that eventually, especially her mom might notice that again. You know, like if she does that again in front of her, they'll probably
That,
know.
huh?
Just saying, she'll probably pick up on that, even though she
Maybe.
got distracted that one time with that solution.
It's a pretty big distraction. I don't know. Like,
You know, you can't do that twice though. I think she start to, figure it out. Maybe not. Oh yeah, Maddie went to school.
we'll
Good
see
for
how
her.
that turns out.
Yeah, probably not great.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, is there anything else that you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Well, see you around for next week's episode. Have a good one.